On a fall morning, when even the sun preferred to hide behind thick fog, Detective Michael Reid arrived in the small town of Ashfield. His car crept slowly through the deserted streets, and each of his breaths, enveloped in vapor, seemed superfluous in this silent world. The town, surrounded by forests and hills, seemed cut off from the rest of the world, forgotten and unwanted. Michael noticed shop windows layered with dust and forgotten items strewn at street corners. Not a single person in sight, only the echo of his footsteps bouncing off the walls of ancient buildings. He felt eyes on him, not visible, but more sensed, the town's eyes watching him, probing his secrets. Michael stopped at a local newsstand where headlines screamed like accusations every day about suicides. Scientists, students, minds full of knowledge and hope, one by one departing this world, leaving behind nothing but questions and emptiness. The reason for Michael's arrival was Sarah's story, a student at the local college whose disappearance had stirred the entire community. Her last known location was the Twin Oaks Hotel, an old building with cracks on its facade and creaking shutters. Sarah's room was locked from the inside, as if she didn't want anyone to enter or leave. When Michael finally got inside, he saw walls covered with strange symbols, layered with dust and darkness. The room was filled with drawings, some so passionately and fiercely drawn it seemed they were trying to break free. On the table lay Sarah's diary, its pages torn as if someone had tried to erase what was written. Yet traces of ink still peeked through the scratches. Every entry, every word, every symbol, whispered of a secret Sarah took with her. Michael felt the air in the room grow denser, and the fog outside the window seemed to tap at the glass, wanting to come in. Tension hung in the air, and the detective knew. To find Sarah, he would have to delve into the heart of this ominous place, from which few returned. His quest for answers led Michael to the university where Sarah studied folklore. There he met Alice, the professor's assistant, who had last seen the girl. Sitting in her office, surrounded by books on history and mythology, Michael sensed that the ancient shelves behind them held more than just dusty tomes. Alice, pale and clearly frightened, spoke of Sarah's recent days, her peculiarities, and obsessive interest in urban legends. The detective combed the streets, interviewed Sarah's colleagues and friends, piecing together the mosaic of her final days. Each conversation only deepened the mystery. Fragments of talk about rituals, forgotten tales, a cult that seemed inconceivable in the modern world. As Michael investigated, he stumbled upon mentions of a cult hidden from outsiders' eyes. Ashfield's legends spoke of ancient rituals honoring forgotten gods, mystical alliances, and sacrifices. In newspaper archives, he discovered old articles about strange disappearances that occurred in the city every few decades, always accompanied by a surge of fog enveloping Ashfield. In the library, Michael found an old map of the city, with markings coinciding with places associated with the cult. Under the sign of a cross was an abandoned church on the outskirts, an old cemetery where, rumor had it, rituals were held, and a house where Sarah was last seen. With each new discovery, Michael realized that this town harbored ancient and dark secrets, which might hold the key to Sarah's disappearance. Michael's work led him to a forgotten section of the old library, where he uncovered a collection of ancient books and manuscripts. Dusty pages contained encrypted records and strange symbols that, like puzzle pieces, began to form a unified picture. One symbol, recurring more than others, strikingly resembled the one Michael had seen in Sarah's room. With each new revelation, he felt the air around him grow heavier, and the shadows, longer and more ominous. Alice, assisting Michael in his investigations, began to notice oddities in her own behavior. She complained of nightmares and voices whispering in her ear at night. Michael saw her becoming increasingly detached and withdrawn, as if something was draining life from her, leaving only a shell behind. The investigation led Michael and Alice to monitor suspicious individuals suspected of belonging to the cult. Shadows flickering behind them seemed only harbingers of impending events. They felt the air saturated with tension and the closeness of something inevitable. Preparing for infiltrating the secret cult gathering was fraught with risk. Michael knew that each step could be their last, but questions demanded answers. They gathered the necessary gear and stayed in the shadows, avoiding attention until it was time to act. The night promised to be long, and Detective Reid prayed for one thing only, that they would both come out of it alive. The night arrived when Michael and Alice were to sneak into the cult gathering. They met at the threshold of an abandoned building that once was a church. Now it stood as a grim monument to bygone times, its broken windows staring at the detective and his companion like empty eye sockets. Inside, deep darkness reigned, and only weak candles cast vague silhouettes of those who had come for this mysterious ritual. As they entered, mantras and incantations uttered in soft but confident voices filled the air. Michael's heart pounded like a drum, its echoes seemingly blending with the rhythms of ancient chants. Through the darkness, he saw a manuscript covered in strange symbols lying on the altar. That was the aim of their mission, but before they could reach for it, they were noticed. The cultists' eyes were filled with madness and rage, and the detective realized they were both trapped. A confrontation was inevitable. From the depths of the shadows emerged a figure whose presence was so heavy that each breath felt like the last. A demon, embodiment of darkness and fear, stood between them and the manuscript. Michael felt fear trying to seize him, but his will and desire to save Alice were stronger. Using knowledge gathered during the investigation, the detective confronted the entity guarding the manuscript. He recalled ancient incantations seen in books and amulets collected throughout the city. The struggle was fierce. Every strike, every word of the incantation pushed back the dark waves into the abyss whence they came. Finally, after a battle that seemed eternal, the dark shadow dispersed, leaving only the echo of its scream behind. Michael and Alice, exhausted but unharmed, approached the altar to complete what they came for, to destroy the manuscript and put an end to the curse that gripped Ashfield in its claws. As they ventured deeper into the underground, sounds grew louder, resembling whispers, laughter, and sometimes mournful cries echoing in the cave's emptiness. Suddenly, before them appeared an altar hewn from stone, speckled with dark stains of dried blood. The air carried the stench of decay and ancient death. Then Alice and Michael felt they were not alone. From somewhere in the depths of the darkness, burning eyes stared at them, filled with anger and ancient wisdom. Jonathan stepped back, but Alice seemed mesmerized. She stepped forward, towards the altar, and recited the spell written in blood on its surface. The earth trembled, and the ancient demon, guardian of the manuscript, emerged before them in a whirl of shadows and ash. Jonathan grabbed Alice's hand, trying to pull her away from the altar, but the demon was already too close, and its power was overwhelming. The battle was short, but felt like an eternity. Drawing strength from the knowledge gleaned from the manuscript and sheer courage, Jonathan managed to resist the demon. Meanwhile, Alice, as if tapping into ancient instincts, reached out to the symbols on the altar, turning them into weapons against the very evil. In the end, the demon was defeated, its scream echoing in the cavern's emptiness, and the darkness dissipated. When they exited the underground, the first rays of morning light were already breaking through the fog. The manuscript was destroyed, and its guardian defeated, but the price of this victory was high. Their lives were forever changed. They had seen what was not meant for human eyes, but they knew that even though the curse was broken, the secrets they uncovered would haunt them until the end of their days.